And welcome back to the Quake Pro League Stage 2 Finals, live from Poland, as we're going to bring out two more of our beautiful gamers to the stage. Starting off, of course, the man you'll all know about, the Viking himself. It's Toxjq. Truly can deliver some rambunctious rails. He's reckless, he's beautiful, it's Tox, but he's up against his opponent in base. Representing Black 100, Base is out here looking to do some damage tonight versus our superstar Swede in Tox. Boys, do we think he has what it takes, or is this going to be a Tox takedown?
Okay, so first of all, this is one of the most extreme cases where there's a definite clash in playstyles.
Yes.
Toxjq is one of the fan favorite Quake players in general. He has what a lot of people say to be some of the absolute, if not the best aim in the world. You can talk in droves about sometimes Tox doesn't quite bring his A game, but when he does, it's like no one can out-aim him, and that makes a huge difference that only really the 0.1% of players can even say they can put a player through. But Base, it's just rock solid. It's almost like when you combine the speed versus the defense, it's like the unstoppable force and the immovable object.
Right.
I'm a bit concerned about Tox.
Okay.
Because an issue that I've been pointing out so often when it comes to his playstyle is that he's been playing so aggressively that when he drops a frag, he so often just goes in again and again and again, trying to get the refrag, and it just doesn't work. And then by the time he's done trying, he's 5 frags behind and he can't catch up anymore. And when you try that against one of the best defensive players in the entire league, which is Base, of course, he might just run into a brick wall and absolutely go down.
See, that's the hard part for me, especially based off the on-Ryan results as well, because I completely agree with you, Ryan, in the sense where it feels like sometimes Tox can be absolutely unreal. But how many times can we say this? How many times can we talk about inconsistency of a player where some days we'll see him just be the most lethal madman who's just launching himself in again and again, but sometimes we see it where it just doesn't hit. And as you said, Flea, he is overly aggressive. He falls into that trap of never being able to play a defensive style due to being too headstrong. Base is the direct counter to that, and he's damn good at it. This surely is going to be a struggle for Tox across the board.
Oh, yeah.
You would definitely think that, but Tox has been able to defeat Base as well. Like,
he has.
We actually look at the record here. We just saw it. Base in week 6, I believe it was a 2-1. I mean, it was close, but it was still a defeat all the same. The thing about a 2-1 is 2-1s can go either way. I know that's like almost like hilarious.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. But my point is that when it is close like that, and these players are very similar in the leaderboards too, it's kind of like there's an even match for different reasons. I'm personally a bit of a biased Toxjq fan, just always have been. He's just a walking highlight reel, and his gameplay, even though he may be one of the more, I guess, kind of like, quiet players, and when, you get him in an interview and he has a lot to say, but the fact is, it's all externalized in his gameplay. Like, everything about what makes Tox, like, I guess, shine as a player, it's all gameplay related. But there's so much of it, it's insane. Like, you just go look at any YouTube highlight reel, the amount of, channels out there, Flux Media and stuff, they do all these constant frag movies. Tox is always like in 60% of every video, and it's ridiculous stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's that one video of his where he goes 50-0 in free-for-all. I think
50-0 Slash.
Just about every Quake player has seen it by now, and Slash absolutely a
Ruins of Sarnath
to do something like that, and we all know what he's talking about. Yeah.
Let's see if there's a chance we get one. We do have the vetoes. It would be damn exciting if we saw a Slash on land from Tox, as that man is crazy at the best of times, and oh boys, we're in for a treat. Have you seen this?
Very curious that Base decided not to ban the Slash. I mean, he had the opportunity, but he took out the Doom instead. But yeah, we're going to see Tox playing Slash on LAN. I feel like that's definitely not an everyday occurrence.
Can we get an Anarchy bonus thrown into the mix as well?
I mean, I think Christmas came early just a little bit, to be completely honest. But we also have to think of, there was a time where Tox wasn't really able to play Slash a lot because it was just banned all the time. There were other mobility-based champions that started to kind of creep out of the woodwork for him, and Anarchy was kind of like the main offender for that.
Yeah.
So you could talk in droves about how crouch slide, particularly fast crouch sliders like Slash, are fantastic for him, but take someone like Anarchy, and he's shown just as much like lethality in that exact same situation. However, he is not all movement. He has played Visor many, many times before. He has just picked some of the general mediums that they move and they can do damage, and they've got good utility outside of that. He's not a one-trick pony in that regard, whereas Base, he's very traditional with his champion picks. If it's a defensive style, you're always going to see the Nyx kind of come out to play. BJ, just nice traditional pick. You can play a solid game, damage when necessary to force people away from things. Ranger, I mean, Ranger kind of speaks for himself in the exact same vein. The Orb kind of, it's just the ability of many uses. And if you want to play as crazy slow as Base does to like the highest effectiveness, those champions will always just be decent for it.
Yeah, I also find it interesting that Tox ended up banning Sorlek for the last map, because that's very often a champion that he likes to use himself, but I guess he figured, you know, it's the last map, there's no way that I can use her myself anymore, I'm gonna go with Slash 100% guaranteed, and you know what? Putting Slash up against a big champion like Sorlek that not only has the stag but also the speed and the mobility, that might have been a mad matchup.
Yeah, that's very, very true. I'm curious. Again, obviously, we always fall into this trap when we discuss it based around Tox, but if his rail is on point, it's a whole nother edge to the playstyle that just, if it's there, it absolutely slaps, and he has so much more firepower, so much more damage. Do you feel like he's going to be on point? It's a LAN environment, obviously coming into this now versus Base. Is this a good matchup for him?
We kind of need the first map to gather that information, because from what we've seen when these two players have gone head-to-head in the past, if Toxjq is the Terminator today, then you can say Tox win, but there's a damn good chance it'll be 2-1 because Base is always kind of forever this sleeper hit. You know, I've always loved to see the growth of Base, how he was very online heavy, spent years not quite being able to bring it to a LAN environment, and even in the early days of Quake Champions, he was still not quite able to kind of hit that stride that he could match online. And then all it took was like one LAN, I believe it was DreamHack Tour for the 2v2 days, and that was a breakout performance for Base. And from that point on, it was like, that was the Base that we now know. And all it took was that one good LAN performance, and he's automatically become one of the, kind of like the hidden killers of any LAN event.
Yeah, I'm actually going to have to go with Base.
Okay.
I just feel like Tox, I even saw it in the last week during the practice when a lot of pros were boot camping and they were playing each other here in Europe. I still saw Tox fall for the same mistakes over and over and over again. So I'm really worried to see how this is going to go. If he can maintain his composure, if he can still play that collected game and realize I do not have to rush over and over again into this brick wall and eat dirt, it can absolutely be his game, but I don't know if he will.
See, the thing is as well, I look at it and I genuinely believe that Base could be a dark horse of the entire tournament. I feel like he's really been going from strength to strength recently. He's in a fantastic position. Obviously, in this matchup alone as well, I would have to give him my favor and say I feel like he's going to take it. Ryan, what do you think?
I like rooting for Tox.
I know you do.
The fact is, he's just a really fun player to watch. When he is in that stride, it is just one of the most kind of unique experiences you can ever. It's why he's such a fan favorite in the first place. That said, this is definitely a clash of two fan favorites because Base has his fair share of fans. Mr. Karate. It's this wonderful thing about Base that he's a real kind of showman in that respect, that he has a laugh and he's got a really entertaining stream, and he's just, you can tell that he actively enjoys all of this.
Yeah.
But the kind of showmanship from Base is not really at the cost of his skill. It's not like he's trying to compensate for that. You can sometimes see that where players, it's like, I'm trying to bring more edge to something, but I'm not like super top level, so how can I kind of still be memorable? That's not Base at all. It's I'm a character, but I'm also one of the best players in the world. And that's a sick combination.
I think that what Base lacks when it comes to English skills, he absolutely makes up in terms of just his overall charisma.
Yeah,
right?
It doesn't matter, right? Because obviously, it doesn't matter if you don't get the best interview from him. Just him being there, he's so resplendent, he's so vibrant, he just oozes enjoyment in a LAN environment. So it's lovely to see him. Hopefully, we do get some incredible Tox level plays coming out from the man on your screens now as well. As you said, he is basically a walking highlight reel, so you kind of want some of that.
Not every day, and that is where the question mark comes into play. Base consistently performs kind of no matter the circumstances, especially in like modern times, like what we now have in Quake Champions tournaments. Base is damn consistent. It's why he has a comfortable spot in the leaderboards, the global leaderboards. Tox, that's where it's always hit and miss. It is the most extreme case in Quake Champions of someone that's either going to be hit and miss on the day.
Yeah.
And if he's having a great day, you can always expect him to get far. He has gotten very far in Quake Champions tournaments in the past, but there's also been tournaments where he just hasn't looked like himself and you would never even notice he was there. It's a very extreme case.
Yeah, it is hard. Obviously, that's the problem with our Viking superstar, is it's the flip-flopping. If he can keep it consistent, keep it clean, there's definitely a possibility based off the vetoes as well. I think there's a good edge. I think there's definitely a chance he can come out and do damage because obviously he's got the champions behind it. He's been allowed to get those in. Normally we do see them banned out. So we definitely are going to get some crazy gameplay. I think you're rightfully in the sense where this is going to be one of those classic moments that he could fall into the trap of over-aggression.
Especially because of the champions that he's playing, right? Because on the one hand, they're definitely his comfort zone. He can play Anarchy, he can play Slasher, two champions that he's more than comfortable playing at the highest levels of Quake. But on the other hand, they're squishy. They're the light champions. They don't have a lot of stack and they do have a lot of speed. That speed means you can change people easily, but it also means you can very easily put yourself just a little bit too far out there in the middle of a room, jump through a door without really checking it, and before you know it, you're done.
It's the classic case of movement being used against you as the player. You just want to go fast, and sometimes that's exactly what the opponent's looking for. Tox, not as prone to that recently. I mean, like, I guess when you develop an entire career off that kind of mobility, you gain that sixth sense to be able to make these micro decisions while going at that fast. Your decision making has to be like fast and furious, much faster than some other players, if that's really what you relish. And speed is Tox's entire thing. His aim is phenomenal, but what makes it so impressive is the combination of his movement combined with the aim. You can sit there standing still on like an aim trainer or something very similar where you're hitting all this crazy stuff and maybe you're not moving or something. The second you take very complex and some of the fastest movement in the entire game, and then you apply that level of aim ability, that's when it gets ridiculous and like borderline inhuman.
Oh yeah, and Tox, I mean, he's got years of experience doing that, right? Back in the days of Quake 4, he was essentially the undisputed best player when it came to that game, and that's the game, of course, that started crouch sliding in Quake. So he's got years and years of experience combining that amazing aim together with that really fast movement and just using the synergy between the two of them to their maximum potential. So we are guaranteed to see some beautiful things come up.
Oh yeah, he definitely knows how to play to his strengths when he's put into a good spot. I'd say based off the champion picks, this definitely is a good spot for him to be in. I just kind of have to give that edge to Base. I feel like in terms of a LAN event like this where he can come in, I think he has the edge in consistency, purely because his playstyle, it stays the same, whereas Tox, it does vary.
Well, what I'm thinking of too is the fact that Base's combat is very impressive. Yeah, and it's one of his greatest strengths. Again, while we kind of get this match up and running, just want to give a thank you to everyone for sticking with us so far. We will have the match up as soon as it's ready, we promise. But Base, back in the 2v2 days, I'm going to rewind again and just give a little bit of context for him, is that when 2v2 was the main game mode a few years ago, Base was like the star fragger of so many different events, where like he was kind of like the role he would play on a 2v2 was to just get those frags, and the amount of frags he would collectively get over the course of one LAN was super scary. So when Tox has accuracy and aim,
oh yeah,
I don't think that's going to overwhelm Base, and that's what we have to think about.
Ryan, I'll come back to that history lesson later, but for now, let's see who is going to get schooled out of Tox and Base.
Yeah, starting things off on Blood Run, of course, a true Russian stronghold. Base has been born and bred on this map in specific. His character, though, Nyx, outstacked by default by Tox, but of course he's got that extra mobility. He's got the wall jump that can get him across some of the larger gaps, and he's got the Ghost Walk to escape or even use it aggressively.
Tox has the added information layer thanks to the piercing sight as well. And you can see now, a bit of an interesting game to kind of just keep him at arm's reach. Base wants to be able to make sure Toxic is going where he wants him to go here. The Mega just about to spawn. Tox in and out. There's no damage taken, but there's enough of a delay in between the Heavy and the Mega that if that is your objective, might be able to get both of them a little bit down the line depending on how things go. And this is that kind of interesting start to the Blood Run where no one really wants to give up too much momentum. We've seen time and time again that if one person gets that one frag, it just sets the entire thing in motion.
Yeah. So far there's been a nice spread on the items too. Base has been the one to take heavy. Toxjq has gone for Mega. That's some good rails being exchanged, but still definitely Base coming out on top because he picked up Mega after he ate that last rail. He's got a stack advantage right now, manages to get heavy as well. And even though it won't give him that much, it definitely just means that Tox has been denied these major items.
Now, a small detail that I want to mention is just an element of Toxjq's play and what makes him somewhat unique here. He had essentially 1 HP and he was railable. He still stayed and peaked the rail. And even if that rail hit Base, Base would have survived.
Yeah.
But it's this idea of, I just think he's going to miss and I want to get another rail on him. It is that there's a level of confidence there, but also sometimes maybe a bit of stubbornness from Toxjq. It's kind of like, you know, the patented style of that. But there's going to be a fight breaking out immediately. Base getting that first frag. 2 minutes in, I mean, it can take a while to really set things off on a map like this, but it's going to be favor Base. And Base, that brick wall of defense, he just needs 1 frag to win the entire map. He's not afraid to play the long game.
No, and that example that you gave is also kind of what I'm afraid of when I see Tox play. 1 machine gun bullet would have finished him right then and there for peeking completely unnecessarily. And now he's just getting railed time and time again, and down he goes. Base clearly happy with the result right there. He's got full control of the map. He just has to be careful. He's a light champion, Tox obviously medium, so he's got that boosted stack of the spawn. Base definitely has to be cautious that he doesn't put himself in a position where Tox can just get that refrag.
But this is the element of Base in the Toxjq matchup, is this. He has underratedly strong aim in some of these situations against someone like Tox, where he's just hitting all the important shots. And when he's hitting the important shots versus Tox, it's very easy to talk about how Tox's combat skill can be unmatched when he's hitting absolutely everything. Yeah. But if Base is just staying as consistent as he often is, Tox has a lot of making up to do in a lot of those matches. Like, if you're still getting hit by those opening rails, you're still, regardless of how accurate you are, still not really in a shape to take a fight, and that is a lot of LG damage. But Base doubling back, collect a couple of hourglasses, the Ghost Walk being ready right before Piercing Sight is, but you can actually check a look at the icon there for Visor. He has collected some hourglasses himself.
Yep, both players will have their abilities ready right here, right now. It's gonna be a matter of who manages to make the best use of them. Heavy is up. I don't think Tox knew the exact timing. Has to loop back around. Here we go. Tox now building a stack, but Base is eager to take it right back down. Very aggressive push right there. Tox, good awareness, expects the push of the Ghost Walk, holds his ground, and now he knows. Base, 30 seconds, can't use that get out of jail free card at all. This might be an opportunity to start mounting that comeback.
5 second split in between Heavy and Mega. See if that's really going to matter at all soon. But now Base, being the one that's in the lead, it's all about just establishing the control of the middle of the map. But now Base is just trying to move back. Yeah, take away the light. Get it for yourself at the same time.
And we know Base is a player who has 0 issues deciding 6 minutes before the end of the map. You know what? 2 frag of elite, I'll take it.
Oh, that's more than enough for Base.
Oh, absolutely. He would have done it with half that. He would have done it with 1. He's just saying, yeah, you know what? If I can win this by slow playing this for the remaining 5.5 minutes, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. And it looks like he's in the very least considering it too. Because Tox has control. Tox is cycling the major items. Base just says, you know what? I've got my base stack. I've got my Ghost Walk at the ready. I don't need anything more.
Hasn't got really the ammo for the LG though. He has a little bit, but not really enough to get a substantial juggle there. He's just going to dive in. Yeah, the straight up trade. Mega for Heavy, 5 minutes. It's been as slow of a map as we fully expect. This is Base's bread and butter, really. But at the same time, he's playing around the Piercing Sight. It's really the management of his Ghost Walk, I think, where the Piercing Sight, he's getting some information when he uses it, yeah, sure, but when a fight breaks out, the Ghost Walk is still used to either disengage. I kind of like here, he's been caught off guard, but now just double back, let's get the armor, and just like that, Piercing Sight was used, yeah, sure, but now it's gone, and Base is still fine.
Tox didn't get the correct read, didn't manage to chase down Base.
I mean, it makes this defensive style so much more annoying, where Base uses the Ghost Walk in situations where you just have to make a hard read in a bunch of directions, where if you just choose the wrong one, there's a lot of backtracking to do.
That shows a lot of experience on Base's end. He knows exactly where to stand and where to take these fights with the Ghost Walk at the ready, so that he knows he's got those escape routes at the ready in case he needs them. And Tox has been trying for minutes on end right now. He's been in control for quite some time, but has been completely unable to put a crack in Base's base stack.
And guess what? Ghost walks back.
Yeah.
So we just have to play that game all over again. Should Base be in a situation where he has to pull it? Again, Toxjq forced to he has to make a decision. And unfortunately, he has not been on the money throughout the course of this map.
No,
It's
one bit.
just so not. It's just the what's the word? The discipline. Don't know why it took me so long to think about that. It's been a long day. The discipline to play this kind of style is always kind of inspirational sometimes. Goes in for the mid-air rocket. Doesn't quite hit its mark, but can he get in and out? There's a lot of LG. Toxjq certainly didn't tickle him, but Base pathing, all about the pathing. Disengage, plenty of stuff to get back up.
Both players doing a lot of damage in that engagement. It could have gone either way, I felt, if they decided to duke it out right then and there. But they are going to disengage. Tox now with a convincing stack lead, but still 3 minutes left for 2 frags on a map like Blood Run against Base on Nyx. That's a whole lot of factors to consider.
That's a lot more work than you would think.
Absolutely, and he doesn't have all that much time to work with either.
But we're just kind of continuously running that circuit.
Oh, can he get the
Tox,
read?
yeah, he's got full control, but
Oh.
again, it's down to that
Look at that
classic-
smile. Look at that smile. Base just when he hears Tox drop back down, he's just like, gotcha.
and his defensive shots,
Yeah.
taking away that stack. His accuracy, his aim in general has been really strong this map. And when you combine that with the fact that, yeah, Tox he's in control of the 2 major items.
Right.
But by the time he even sees Base, he's getting hit by so many rails that, I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's gone. The benefits of them are gone. But now Heavy in play. Base, once more, not interested. Let him take it.
Yeah.
2 minutes to go now. Ghost Walk in play. He's straight up been able to just elude Toxjq for 8 minutes straight. And this is why Base is so insanely difficult to deal with in Quake Pro League. It's just this style.
Yeah, I wonder if we're going to see the same thing we saw between Kron and Vanger, which was that Kron was really trying to hold on to that Ghost Walk, or to the piercing sight up until he had forced it out on the other opposing player, and then used the piercing sight instantly to track down the runaway Nyx. Looks like Tox might be holding on to it a little longer, or did he just use it? Can't quite tell just yet. Now he's still hanging on to it.
I mean, that might very well be what the change of play is. So he's just pulled the trigger on it, but that was later than it often has been in these fights. Problem is, he's run out of time. This has been quite a fast couple of minutes, to be honest with you. And now, just over a minute left, 2 frags to go. Ghost Walk is still up. Base has, this is just it's a Blood Run masterclass. It's why this is his home, and it has been for a very long time.
The perception of time is amazing to see, because if you're playing Base, it feels like, oh man, so many minutes, so much time to kill. But when you're Tox, it just feels like, oh man, I've got so little time to actually catch up with my opponent and tie things up at the very least before the timer runs out. Base absolutely playing a brilliant game. He actually managed to steal 2 major items off of Tox. Tox trying to chase him down, but in doing so, taking some unconventional routes, and those obviously leave up some gaps that Base has been exploiting nicely.
It's his delayed teleport locations, combined with the fact that when he teleports, he's already in a position where if he sits and you don't know where he is, he's starting to make the read. These defensive rails again coming through. Perfect rocket, just short of. And the combo, painful stuff.
Yep.
And when the time comes to actually land one shot to just seal it, Base has hit it every time. He's been on the money. This map is done. Tox completely unable to really do much there. Couldn't really find him. Base just had that perfect runaway game, which is just what the bread and butter of this map is. It's what you expect to see, and Base played it perfectly.
And we've said it several times so far, right? On a map like this, in a champion matchup like the one we just saw, that first frag is so important. And then the moment that Base gets that 2-0 lead, you essentially know that he can play the passive defensive game and just run down the clock.
But yeah, the replay, the frags are mostly, some of them are quite early on.
Yep, that basically all of them were quite early on, and then things just slow right down. Here we go. Final shot coming in from Base. Beautiful rail. And then a few ones at the end, but really, these were just for good measure.
Oh, they look damn good though.
Absolutely.
Especially the final ones at the end. That one maybe not so much, because that was just a bonus one.
Yeah.
The third one for sure. But you just look at the fights too, that when it looks like Tox had somewhat of a chance, Base was in such an awkward location where it's not only if you are playing that defensive game where you kind of sit at a safe distance, and if you hear them coming, there's a lot of different ways you can go.
Yeah.
You then add the Ghost Walk on top of that, and it just seemed like when Tox had even a sniff of a chance, Ghost Walk was popped, and then he just didn't make the right call for where Base would go after that.
Yeah.
And when he did manage to even be in a position to get some damage, Base gets an opening rail or an opening rocket, and he just nails the fight before Toxjq even has a chance to fight back. And that's the element of the combat skill we talked about before we even started map 1, is that when it's time to fight, Base can still do that with the best of them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see how this next match is develop, though, because this time around, Toxjq, he had the piercing sight. He essentially had an ability that gives him information, right? But in the next 2 maps, what he's got is the speed that we know Toxjq for. So this time around, when he ended up behind his opponent in terms of score, all he could do was use the piercing sight to try and catch him off guard and in a bad spot. But this time around, in the next 2 games, or next 1 game at least, he will have a whole lot of speed and momentum to rather than just try to get information, actually just catch your opponent.
It's the overwhelming style.
Yeah.
It's what fits Toxjq like a glove. And if he's able to win this map that's coming up with the Anarchy, and should the speed be quite a major part of it, which it quite often is when Tox has like a damn good game,
yeah,
you then have to think about how the potential final map will go, because you're going essentially trading one lightning fast champion for another. If we go from Anarchy to Slash, I mean, the question at this point is, will we even reach that point?
Yeah,
that's where we're not quite sure. Tox just didn't really seem to exist much on that map. It's very much a Base who knows who his opponent is, and he was not playing any games. Like within like a couple of minutes, he was already on that strict defensive style. Awoken is where it gets a little bit different, though.
Yeah,
you're gonna have raw damage versus just pure speed.
And this is a map that Anarchy works well on too, right? There's so many nice routes that you can run with the champion. You've got that injection for the speed and the health boost. And he's going up against BJ Blazkowicz, which a champion we don't really see all that often. I mean, he's got his uses, but I wouldn't consider him part of the top tier meta, at least. But it's going to be interesting to see how that can be used against Anarchy. One of the immediate things that come to mind is double shotgun. Shotgun, it's like, you know, it's Anarchy's main weakness. It does so much damage to that champion, so easy to catch him with it too. So when you whip out 2 of those at the same time, that could really work in Base's favor.
And at the exact same time, on the subject of dual wield is irritating for just bullying people away from the major items.
Yeah.
You know, you just look at Awoken, where is heavy, where is mega? If there's a BJ on either of those locations with 2 of any kind of major weapon, it's already something that you can't really challenge it.
Yeah.
Because if you challenge it and he's there before you, I mean, what even can you do? Like hit a rail and hope that maybe he backs off or something? If you're overstaying your welcome, you will just get deleted. And you're so out in the open trying to fight for them that if Base plays his cards right, he tries to at least make sure he's ready for Tox.
Yeah.
If it's more he's established, again, this might come down to the early lead situation. If Base is able to establish himself on the really important parts of the map before Tox gets there, he's going to have that kind of initial advantage. But
okay,
we'll see how the start of the map goes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is going to be interesting for sure. And so far, map 1, I feel like my fears were realized. Toxjq did in his favor, at least, he managed to play not a hyper-aggressive game, right? It was just the first 2 frags didn't go his way. Base switched to a very passive playstyle immediately, and he just really wasn't able to put a dent in those defenses anymore.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't that Tox was handing himself on a silver plate, which is something when Tox is not having a good day, that is something that can happen. That he's almost like way too aggressive off the spawn. Just he's one of those players that we've all kind of seen it where you still got a lot of the time left on a map, and a player will think, well, I've got a lot of the map left to go, so maybe I can just try and be aggressive on this spawn just to see if I can, you know, refrag and then establish something. A little bit too many times, and unnecessarily gives up about 2 or 3 frags Tox has done in the past. Wasn't really one of those cases of Blood Run. More so just the fights didn't go well at the beginning, and then for 8 minutes he couldn't find him.
Yeah.
Even with the piercing sight, but that to me is just more of a testament to how rock solid Base plays that map.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even a wall hack doesn't help.
Nope. And as we're setting up for the next map, maybe just a quick shout out once again to remind you all to follow these players. But hang on, we have got the updated brackets for the time being, so maybe we can take a quick look at what had happened elsewhere.
What a day it's been.
What an incredible day it's been. Any highlights for you?
I really think the relegation matches this time were a lot more, I suppose, interesting than they were in stage 1. I think it might just come down to the talent of the players and just the outcomes in general. It's been a good day if you're in the challenger bracket.
Oh, yeah.
Quite a few of them. Sib been able to reclaim his position in Quake Pro League, which is always nice to see a player come back from the brink. Sparty able to do exactly the same thing. Unfortunately, Sparty, I believe, is out of the tournament now.
Yeah.
He had lost to Hang in the upper bracket, and then I believe it was Dewey
Dewey.
in the lower bracket. We heard a really loud pop-off in the player room just opposite the desk. And I was like, that sounds like Dewey. I think he won.
And also, Nosfa, I believe, is out as well. I think that Sib in the lower bracket managed to take out the Brazilian player in the league, so he won't be making a reappearance either. But perhaps... Okay, we're gonna have a look at the lower bracket in a moment, but before that, maybe a quick look at the matches for tomorrow. We haven't decided all of them yet, obviously.
Look at the top one.
Yeah, Rafa versus Cypher. It is a redo of what we saw in the Stage 1 finals, and what an amazing matchup that was, right? 3-1 for Cypher. I remember people going, what year is this? What year is this? Rafa versus Cypher towards the end of the finals of a major Quake LAN? What is happening?
I mean, there are just so many. What I love about the stage finals, there's so many stories, and it absolutely is just a player-by-player basis. It's the glory of 1v1 and the fact that everyone's kind of out for themselves.
Yeah.
Some players may be teammates, but when it's head versus head, I mean, no one wants to lose. Everyone wants to be the champion.
Yeah.
And most players here, if not all of them, will not settle for second place. You've got to be number one.
And the other one that we saw for tomorrow was Wenger versus the Hang, right? So we've already changed to the lower bracket, but that's also going to be one hell of a match to look out for. But here, right on the screen, you can see what has happened on the B stream that you can, of course, also go follow and watch yourself. But Chain beating Effortless, so Effortless is
2-1 though.
2-1, yeah, Effortless managing to get at least one map. Zenaku went down to Dramas, but I don't think he will mind all that much, since of course he did manage to qualify for the Quake Pro League, the first Australian player to do so, so congratulations to him. Then we've got Sparty going down to Dewey, 2-1. I caught some of it, and I believe it went on into overtime, like 2 minutes into overtime on the deciding map, so it was a really close game. Could have gone either way, but congratulations, Dewey, for moving ahead. And the last one was Sib versus Noso, as we said, Sib winning 2-1.
And it sets up Hron versus Dewey, Cygib versus Sib. I mean, it was like stage 1 all over again for some of these. It's just the blast from the past, really. But yeah, tomorrow's games are going to be absolutely fantastic. Really excited for the Rafa Cypher game.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I speak for almost everyone that's watching this broadcast right now when we talk about that one, but it's just, there's so much legacy there. It's insane. And the fact that we're at an IEM as well almost just feels like it's almost complete in a way.
Yeah. And I want to thank you all for sticking with us. We've just been told that it will be only a few more minutes before we get into the second map of this series. For the people just tuning in, Base currently has a 1-0 lead over Toxjq after winning with a relatively low score count, 2-0, beating Tox, his visor with Nyx on Bloodrun.
But we are moments away from loading into the next map. Once again, thank you all so much for staying with us. I do believe whatever is going on should be resolved soon.
Yep.
We now have potentially one more map to go over. If Base wins this, it'll be a clean 2-0 versus Tox, but we're trading Piercing Sight for just high octane mobility, so that could make quite a significant difference, I think, Flea.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. We mentioned it towards the start. Tox loves his speed, but of course, there's always the looming risk of letting the speed dominate you rather than you being in full control of it. And that might just become Toxic's downfall this time around. But both of these players, I think they're looking pretty decent, no? So far, neither of them has really been showing any cracks. Tox, yeah, he did drop map 1, but still, his aim was looking solid. He didn't overextend, didn't feed his opponent frag, so this can really go either way.
Absolutely. There's really no shame in losing Bloodrun to Base.
No.
It's kind of like two peas in a pod. We've reached a point where you can just... It's quite nice to see being able to associate players with either maps or sometimes champion picks as well. How, you know, you think of Tox, you think of Slash.
Yeah.
You think of... Wait, Dahang. Why was I struggling to think of Dahang? I was literally talking about Strog, and I've been talking about Dahang and his Strog all day. You know what? I'm gonna blame the long day on that one.
Yeah.
But my point is, you've just reached a point where, like, there's just an identity. Players have an identity linked to whether it's a map or a champion, and it really comes out in competitive play where we now start to see respect bans coming through, even if a ban isn't seen as like the meta of a map or whatever. If someone is super dangerous or lethal, like we just saw Razy in his clutch earlier today, how many times do we realistically think that's going to sneak into a new pick throughout the course of this LAN. I mean,
yeah.
it's brave to let it rock, and a lot of players throughout the course of the Pro League in general have simply said, no, you're not allowed, I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, and I was backstage earlier with some of the players, and the topic came up, and Rafa just put it beautifully, and he said, you know, if someone's playing clutch, if you know they play the robot, ban it. Ban it. Don't risk it. You never know what they're going to make happen with that champion out on the field. So, as you said, these respect bans obviously becoming a more important part of the meta over time. Man, look at the belt. It looks beautiful, doesn't it? I think everyone wants to get their hands on it. They want to be able to stamp their name on it and become part of that very exclusive list.
I mean, honestly, Flea,
winners.
It's kind of crazy to think that there's already 2 names on it.
Ah, yeah, absolutely.
It kind of feels like Quake Pro League has only just begun, and there are 2 players already etched into history via that championship belt. Another player going to get their name on it this weekend. Is it going to be players that already have their name, and they're going to be greedy and double dip, or is it going to be a brand new champion? That's what I love about it, is that so many players here could totally win.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more than 2 of them that could win this tournament.
Oh yeah, like if you look back at like the olden days of some of the previous Quakes, that was quite different. But now we've got a lot of people as we are jumping into the second map. This could already be the deciding one. If Base takes this out, he will move ahead while Toxjq drops down to the loser bracket. And we're starting this off on Tox's point of view, immediately looking for damage, even leaving up the small armor.
Thank you all so much for sticking with us, and I'm glad we are up and running. A very important map for Tox to stay alive in this upper bracket. I did lose a pretty convincing blood run to base a few minutes ago, and now looking to try and tie things up 1-to-1 with the speed of this punk, but we'll see. We're going to be checking them out first.
Yeah. Toxjq getting himself on Mega. Base keeping that heavy side on lockdown. Now Heavy's still up. I think Base is trying to bait Toxjq into going for it.
Yeah, it looks like he's had his position ready and waiting. Going to be near the railgun side though, so there's going to be kind of an automatic edge here, especially versus Anarchy. Lights don't like getting railed very much.
Absolutely not. Mega is up. Toxjq, or will be up in just 5 short seconds. Toxjq's definitely got the best positioning on it, and you can tell Base immediately continuing that passive playstyle. You know, he's not putting himself out there, he's just making his way around the map to get all the necessary weapons, and I think he just managed to pick up LG as well, or is he still just hiding down there?
Both players had the same idea though. Tox kind of disengaged to make sure he got a rail, and exactly while he's looking for a railgun, Base is looking for an LG, and that tri-bolt really did some decent opening damage here. Tox has a great stack to work with. Let's not forget, that injection is in play, ready to go.
Yep.
That instant health
and you always
might make a difference.
You always see 2 kinds of players, right? Those that just use the injection the moment they have it, so that by the end of the game they can end up with like 110, 115 points of health, right? That's a pretty significant change. It starts adding up when it hits that amount. Or those who just hang on to it. And it's pretty clear that Tox is just waiting for an opportunity to use it. He wants to have that extra health and speed boost available when he needs it the most, and he doesn't want to pop it a moment before that.
Ooh!
Yep, that's a good rocket. That's a nice little treat. He's even going to use it aggressively. What a nice little rocket jump. The little turnaround to clear the gap at the end. It shows just how much experience Tox has with these fast, nimble champions.
And Base, he tried as hard as he could to be ready for that, but he still took a decent chunk of the opening damage at the same time. Just when you play against someone who's quite fearless. Tox is quite the fearless player. I know it can be used against him sometimes, but in these situations, it's because he's been saving a hold of the injection that he can make those kind of plays where if he needs to kind of just back out a little bit, he's got that instant burst of health. There's a lovely little rail to open up. East one in return though from Base, and now in between the cooldown of Tri-Bolt, getting some free HP in there. And it's been a relatively sort of passive game when it comes to frags. Nothing so far, almost 3 minutes already.
Good positioning from Base though. One of the things that I've noticed, putting himself towards the center of the map when Tox moves in for a heavy. Base obviously had the timing ready to go, shoots a rail, backs right back up onto Mega, and he knows that Tox can't contest. He knows that he just doesn't have the stack, and Base will just hold down that area and secure himself on Mega health. We're seeing some rails being exchanged. Toxjq, he can take one more, but barely. Not looking all that stacked, and Base.
That one rail and the fact that Base took the heavy just allowed Base to get full control of both of them. He's got perfect timing. Tox should, in theory, have perfect timing as well. We're pretty close to both of them when they got picked up.
Yep.
But Base, healthier, and with the dual wield or the damage in general, that's something to worry about. In 20 seconds time, Base will have it again. That's
And that
bit
hurts
sore.
even more because you're a small champion, right? Because the self-damage from the rocket, when you're already in a bad spot, Toxjq absolutely not going to be happy with that one. And now he's losing out on more and more major items, forced back onto the defensive, whereas Base is just continuing his reign of the map.
Having no choice but to concede those major items while being left with nothing but scraps can't be a good feeling. But now we're on that 4-minute mark. It's kind of crazy to think that we're almost halfway through this Awoken already.
Yep.
And neither player wants to overpush too hard. There is some damage, but not enough clearly to make Toxjq feel comfortable that he wants to go in, he wants to push.
Yeah.
That's a painful rail to get hit by though, especially with no armor. Got to be very careful with that one. It's going to fail to hit its mark just a little bit, but at this distance, it's kind of tricky to go for the light armor that's nearby. It can be quite obvious, and if Base is ready, just pushing on with the stack he's got, and this bad news should be a done deal. A little bit of a bonus rail, just to make it not as painful, but I mean, a frag's a frag at the end of the day. Base taking the lead.
Clever positioning from Base right there, just waiting, expecting Toxjq to go for that, and indeed Toxjq went for the small armor. He landed the first rail and then just pushed in. He even used the dual wields because he was like, hey, you know, I haven't had the opportunity to use it much, but here comes Tox, rockets into rail.
Oh, bullseye!
He goes off the map, and that is Base tying things right back up, or Toxjq rather, tying things right back up 1-1. He's hungry for more. Out comes the injection.
He's only just not railable though.
Yeah,
that'll leave
put him right above it. Good use of the ability though, of course, because otherwise he was railable, but he put himself just over it. Nice little rail in the back.
Just to make it hurt even extra, getting one of those rails and then jumping in.
He doesn't have rockets though. He needs to be aware of this.
Missed rail is going to be a death sentence. Nice little bit of free ammo and he can just double back. That one ring out, it just leads to so many things. Awoken, it's a map that's known for it.
Yeah. One of the faster maps where one frag can easily end up becoming more than just that. Rails being exchanged, both players having hit once so far. That's going to favor Tox. He's actually going to go hyper-aggressive. Base was not ready for it at all, but he misses the easy rail.
That's the kind of shot that feels bad because it would have shut down free. Direct. Base just caught in the wrong part of town. And that's the thing, it's not just about the good fortune of the frag that you can obtain, like the ring out that started this whole chain of momentum. It's what you do with it. The fact that Tox has been able to really kind of establish himself on the map now because of that. A lovely rail. Base now hurting after that one. And Tox, knowing Tox, he's going to push the advantage all the way, 4-1. And this is the snowball effect of a map like Awoken. You can get one good sequence and the daisy chain just, it begins. And here we go, looking to get some more. The mobility of Anarchy makes it slightly easier for him to kind of dodge those longer range rockets. Tox taking very minimal damage from it, and Base not really able to establish himself. The rails are what we're keeping Tox in a bad position, and Base is barely really been able to get his hands on one.
It's definitely looking like Toxjq is starting to hit his stride. You know, he's getting into that momentum, into his own groove. The shots are connecting quite nicely, but this is risky though. Base is gonna push in. Rockets being exchanged. Tox down to 60 points of health. Base will absolutely want to push it. As I said, a little too risky holding down that position. Standing in the door, most often a bad decision.
And it was a bad place to be in, and it was a quick frag too. No time really wasted. This comeback is totally possible. Base has a good stack. He's got a whole bunch of weapons. Tox fresh off the spawn. He's only got a machine gun. Granted, he did an impressive amount of damage there. Hang on a minute! Can tank a rail, and it's just in time for the Mega to spawn.
Yep.
That's how you stop the bleeding.
Absolutely, just get the refrag. Why not? 2.5 minutes left. Oh, that rocket barely missed. Almost took his entire face clean off. Ooh. Oh, that's a pretty nice one as well. And with just 2 minutes left, Base, this is desperation mode. He needs to get his frags now.
This is the eternal struggle that you can find yourself in, where you have to make something happen, and you know it makes you a bit more predictable, but you have to do it, otherwise you're going to lose the maps. You kind of have to just go in. Dual wield, you're going to get struck, answered back by the injection. Give me a Mega for good measure. And just like that, 7-2. This by all, I mean, Tox at this point kind of really needs to make a crucial mistake to set the wheels in motion.
Yeah.
By all means, this should be his map here.
I don't foresee him making any mistakes. He's just gonna keep doing that damage. He's got the railgun, but he knows Heavy's gonna spawn soon, so he's just gonna content himself hitting his opponent, doing consistent damage with the heavy machine gun. Gotta be careful though. Mega up in a few seconds. He's waiting for that injection. I think he's gonna use it the moment he can. And here we go. Tox is a healthy Anarchy once again.
Perfectly timed with the Mega at the same time, so it's super health. And I'm just looking at how much time is being wasted by there being no frags.
Too much.
Yeah, Base is doing what he can, but the clock's not on his side.
Yeah, and
be a
of
done
course,
deal by all accounts. Even for Awoken standards, this should very much be done.
and of course, trying to chase down an Anarchy when you're playing as someone as BJ who has 0 movement capabilities, that's a tall order on any day, especially when it's up against Tox.
There's a seesaw effect always at work. When Anarchy doesn't work and he can't get going, his movement may as well not exist because he's just a glass cannon fresh off spawn. But when he does work, in this exact situation where Tox, he has a massive lead to work with, he just has to run away for a minute at least. This is where the mobility just starts to become crazy obvious. It's only when you are in that advantage position that it really kind of starts to rear its ugly head. Other than that, it's not super apparent all the time, but now Tox, this is going to be his map, making it 1-1, and we're going to trade one fast champion for another as he is going to get the slash on the final map. And at this place, I mean, Base, you said it yourself, he was positioning himself really well early on. Just Tox, he just started hitting the shots.
Yeah, absolutely.
He started hitting the shots and he just got that momentum on deck. And when you've got momentum and you've got control, Anarchy can just overwhelm you.
Yeah, especially against a champion like BJ, who's got very little to do against that Base, will in the end still get himself a nice little rail. But you can tell a little disappointed that it has to go to the final tiebreaker map, but I think I know a few people who aren't disappointed, and that's us as well as the viewers, because we're going to see Tox on Slash at LAN. How often does that happen?
I mean, it's our reward.
Absolutely.
It's the lovely people's reward for sitting there while we load up the second map. But here we go. I mean, this was just Tox and the movement when he picks these lights. That was the start, really, of everything for Tox. And it's kind of unfortunate that that had to be how it started, but on a map like this, it just comes with the territory. Awoken, you can get ring out. That's just the way it can go.
Yeah, there's a few maps where that's always a risk, and Awoken's definitely one of the main ones. Another one is, of course, Molten Falls. We've seen some heartbreaking things happen on that map today with the ring outs and, yeah, the suicides, even, I would say. But
Rafa's Ledge as well, back in the day.
Ledge,
it just seems like that part of the map is cursed.
It's got like a magnet, man.
Awoken as a whole map is cursed in that regard, just all over. If you're near the edge, you just get sucked off.
Yeah.
It's like the gravitational pull. But anyway, what we have to really break down here is just, we have one map to go, and Tox, the thing is, it really started from that kind of ring out position. That was kind of like that set the wheels in motion. But now, if memory serves, I believe it's Ruins, right? Ruins of Sarnath, final map.
I think so.
I'm sure I remember it. It's so late in the day, I question it, but it should be a slash pick on there. We've seen Tox, he's actually on that map. Well, we were just talking about the 50-0. The legendary 50-0 video where he got 50 frags and a free-for-all and no deaths. That was on Ruins of Sarnath, man. That was the one. It was meant to be.
It was meant to be that we get to see it again, and it is
Cheers,
Slash
guys. Thank you.
versus Ranger. Ranger, though, not the worst counter.
Oh, no.
Slash, especially because like Slash has got a very limited stack, so if you can get close to her and you orb together with a rocket, I mean, even if she's taking Mega or Heavy, that's gonna basically cripple her instantly.
And you look at Slash's movement, with the exception of rocket jumps, her movement is on the floor. It's grounded. It's fast, but it remains grounded. Ranger will have that verticality, so even though Base is going up against a Slash, he is still going to have an element of mobility that Tox doesn't have, and without self-damage and noise.
Yeah, absolutely. The rocket jumps, think for example, the rocket jump from Railgun all the way up to Mega, or to T rather, that's something that you can't really do all that often when you're Tox, because you will take so much damage just by hurting yourself with those rockets.
And you'll make your position highly obvious too.
Oh yeah, Base has to worry a lot less about that.
Now we'll be checking out Base first. Always curious to see how someone against Tox kind of handles the Slash, like how slow they can approach it, or how careful they might be. Looks like there's an immediate fight here. Base, all the weapons locked and loaded already, so he's in a perfect position to stop this.
Base down below at Heavy, that's the item he went for at the start, and he's got a pretty decent amount of stack, making his way over to the Mega as well, but it will be going to Tox, no doubt. Good little bit of damage though, looking for some more, can't find another angle, but Tox has got very little armor to his name, and that hurts a lot when you're a small champion. Base, he knows exactly where Tox is, he's trying to bait out the rail. There we go, missed it though, but that was a beautiful little fakie.
Now, with this kind of movement, you can already see how fast Tox is moving around this map. If he is hitting his shots, there is going to be an immense amount of pressure on base to match that. But on a map like this, which is as rail heavy as it is, with Tox going as fast as he's going, we're going to have to wait and see what his accuracy is looking like. You know, we haven't really had enough time to digest that yet, but there's going to be a lot of pressure on base, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Base definitely playing more of a defensive style as we're used to, trying to set up those traps. He's kind of just sitting down here at heavy, waiting for his opponent to come blazing through the doorway to land some amazing rockets, no doubt. But Tox is aware of it, realizes what Base is up to, knows what his opponent is planning, and he's playing around it beautifully.
Base is absolutely going to know that Plasma Trail is down, and we have to know he hasn't used his Dire Orb yet, hasn't needed to. You feel like he is kind of saving it for that rainy day, the close range encounter, and he's looking at the jump pad and he just gets blindsided, the wrong side. And now jumping down for the advanced base, trying to deny the heavy at the very least. Now the mission will be do as much damage as you can. He's done a good job of taking away a lot of the armor. I know there's a light nearby, but I think Base kind of knew he was probably going to go down there the second he was tagged by that extra rail, and it's right. I'm going to deny the heavy and just see how much damage I can do before.
And I think that Tox is setting up a very nice rotation now too. A lot of time between the two items. He can easily pick up Mega and then make his way over to heavy as well. But Base, is he trying to do the exact same thing? He is. Toxic though, he's got the speed and down you go. You could easily tell, Base just wasn't prepared for that speed. His rockets did next to no damage in that engagement. Tox just dancing around there with the Plasma Trail. Out comes the Orb though. This is what I was talking about at the start. Squishy champion slash. He's got to be careful because those burst amount of damage can instantly wipe her up the map.
But this is Tox's style. It's the hit and run style, where it's, I get and do damage. If I frag you, cool. If you're weak, okay, well, I'm going to disengage and get my stack back because I'm way faster than you, and then we'll just fight again a little bit later on. Tox giving himself a nice little comfortable 2-frag lead here. But again, just controlling the high ground hit. It's so fast how he's able to navigate. It did catch Base off guard for the second frag, but you know, that's always going to be a lesson learned. It just forces you to have your awareness has to be like up to 11.
Oh yeah.
Ready for every outcome. Should be a fight. Ooh, get some rail right before the end. But Base not going to be too disappointed by that.
Yeah, no. Base getting himself on the board again, 1-2. Still a whole lot of time left on this map. Heavy will be going to Tox, but Base starting to make his way back into this.
Just remember, folks at home, we are watching Base right now. He is the one playing Ranger. This is the tricky situation, just trying to deny. Can he get in? That rail did kind of stunt the movement just a little bit, but Base, yeah, just able to get in, heal up, finish the job. Best case scenario.
Yep.
Oh, the good spawn as well. Wonderful. And Base should be able to...
Hang on.
What the damage?
Hang on.
Damage?
That was amazing from Toxic. He got him out of the spawn, landed the opening rail, and then Toxic somehow with the basic machine gun.
You could tell that even Base was not prepared to eat that much damage, because he stuck around when it was all there. It's like, wait, hang on a minute, what? All right, maybe better dip out a little bit, but the position, Tox, there's a lot of pressure on here for him to hit those rails, and he hits 3 in a row, and he finishes it with the 4th. Tox, the master of execution. When he gets it, it is out of this world.
That's the Terminator that everyone's been hoping to see.
Base had no choice there but to just shake his head. Like, what can you do? They just hit every shot. The movement, you can't outrun it.
I mean, that's just sometimes all you've got to do. You got to shake it, and you got to keep it up. You know that sometimes you're going to run into these players, and they are going to hit these ridiculous shots. Not once, not twice, 3, 4 times in a row. You just got to grit your teeth and say, okay, they're going to miss eventually. And keep playing your game. Now Toxic, 1 frag in the lead.
Just trying to figure out, get some information on deck. Minimal damage on the rocket to return. Base, unfavorable position. He had a good position, like in terms of map. Like, he could have got some defensive rockets, but Tox, there's no reason to bite. Why would he put himself into that bottleneck?
Yeah.
Nice rail from Base, but he needs a lot more than that. Unfortunately, the next 2 haven't quite hit their mark. Swapping to the rocket, and that's not going to quite hit it either. The orb! No. Stuck on the wall, you know that is not what Base wanted. He wanted a way out, and that is the opposite effect.
Toxic still trapping Base in this little corner of the map. Is he going to hang around? I think Toxic is just going to break away, favor the item, and I think that's a wise decision to make. He's gonna lose
almost.
out on Heavy though. One more. Oh no, Base down to 20-something points of health. This is a good opportunity for Toxjq. He knows that Base is screamingly low and he wants to finish it.
And yes, asked realistically, what really is around that part of the map that he can use? He knows the orb is down because he used it up here. You know Base was trying to escape with it, just unfortunately clipped some of the terrain. Maybe still around. Tox just used that downtime to just establish himself all over the map. He's taken away a couple of the light. And now he's towards Heavy. Base, he's not even really looking to get Mega at the moment. Unless he can use the orb, which it looks like he might have done, or something similar.
I'm very happy to see this level of restraint from Tox. He is absolutely not overextending. Like, look at that. He could have easily just pushed in for that fight, knowing that he was in a pretty good shape, but then he took that rail and he just instantly decided, you know what, that's not worth it. I'm still in the lead.
I think Base obviously rocket jumped up to try and get the Mega instead, because you would have sworn he'd use the Dire Orb just for like the safety alone, but he's actually still got it good to go. We'll see how much that helps him out in a little bit, but it's just a nice level of disengage that it has kind of evened the odds a little bit. But if Tox is able to kind of just get those opening shots that he has been, it is going to come down to this next fight, I think. With the time that's left, good for a shot. Tox unfortunately misses the first one, but the miss is returned, and the opening rocket. It's better than nothing, 63. Now, can he bully his way? Are they going to go for a straight-up trade? Looks like Tox just wants to position himself for Mega. Let him have it. We got the sound cue.
Yep.
Plasma Trail, just all about the area denial. Base cannot go through this way at all.
And then the rockets to the other side, making sure that there's absolutely no way that Base can jump on him by surprise. And now there's just 2 minutes left, and I think he's playing the countdown game. He realizes, you know what? This is a pretty good safe area for me. I don't need to try and chase him down, but he is still doing what we were talking about earlier, keeping control of the map. He's surrendering the Heavy, sure, but he's still just not hiding in a little corner, you know? He still has a presence, he's manifesting himself, trying to do the damage, still picking up the ammo, little pieces of resources whenever he can, maybe even hoping to get himself a Mega item sooner rather than later, but he's got to be careful.
He has shifted his focus onto defense all the way. Plasma Trail again to shut the door. Has pulled the trigger on it a little bit early. Base is going to go full speed ahead. Heavy is about to spawn, but who's going to come off better in this fight? Looking for the rail, and he gets it. But Base is weak. Tox can technically tank a rail, but Base, I don't think he wants to sit around and find out. He is weak.
Base knows that if he goes for another rail right there, even if he lands it, Tox does the same thing, he's done.
I mean, you peek there, you risk the set.
Yeah,
this has been a long series. You risk the whole thing.
Because if you die at that point with a minute left to go against Tox on Slash who can just run away from you, it's over, okay? He's got to find a situation that works for him, and that's exactly what he's trying to do. Here he goes, a very aggressive rocket jump, but the LG is murderous! 1 point of health, surely Toxjq!
Hang on,
Toxjq!
What?
Oh!
But he's still weak. I know there are 2 frags to go. There is the chance for a refrag here. It depends entirely on the spawn. Looks like Base's spawn wasn't so bad. He's going to get the LG side. But the speed of Slash, and this is the speed coming out once again. Base, the aggressive play, the instant rocket jump near Heavy to just try and overwhelm, get some opening damage before he even knows he's there. You understand why he went for it. It just didn't work out.
Yeah.
That was definitely all or nothing right there.
Here we go though, Base pushing in, he knows it has to happen now, he cannot allow Tox to escape. Shotgun will clear him out.
He's so weak, Flea!
Yeah, he doesn't have anything to work with, 40 points of health. Toxjq just off the spawn with his default stack, clearly outstacks him. And here we go, 5 seconds left to go. Base, you need to find him now. Toxjq is down there to the left, but he makes a wrong turn, and that's all she wrote.
The end of days.
Let's go down. Toxjq continues.
That was a hard-fought series all the way. It's almost kind of it's a great example that Tox, in the final moments, was able to shift his play.
Yeah.
The concerns are always there that maybe he's too aggressive, maybe he pushes forward too much. The closing moments of that map was the restraint. It was the patience and using the movement combined. But that final moment where Base, it was the all or nothing. The jump down, the rocket jump.
This was reassuring to me. This is comforting. Seeing Tox being able to also play this more defensive tactical style it's something I very much enjoy doing, and this has kind of reinforced some of the confidence that I have in him, especially moving forward in the next few rounds.
Seeing the adaptation was incredible because obviously, I mean, based on the first map, it seemed like this really was going to be a bit of a base domination coming through. Instead, Tox reinvigorated on Awoken. It really did wake him up. He completely reset himself, came out with that true classic Tox style, was backing it up with the shots he was hitting.
Yep.
But as we saw, he developed more. He was willing to play a slow play style. He was willing to not just charge in and go for fight after fight. When he had an edge, he kept it. He didn't let that slip away.
Yeah.
It's just nice to see the diversity coming out from Toxjq, honestly. We can really sort of just touch on this one topic constantly because you don't really get to see it very often. It is, especially after how the first map went, but even then, the first map, the Blood Run, it was interesting to me because although it was a one-sided affair, it was more a testament for just how well Base played that map, because a lot of the frags that went through, it wasn't Tox being impatient, it wasn't that he was being overly aggressive. Base was just being the most defensive player that we've seen all day, but that's what he's famous for. That is his style, and his style was put to perfection. But as is the way with Blood Run and how, I guess, individual that map is for defensive players, the rest of the maps, they're automatically different. And it just favored Tox a little bit more.
And I think that Tox probably just expected the Blood Run outcome from the beginning, right? He knows, okay, this is Base, probably his best map, right? He's amazing on it. I'm going to play the Visor. He's going to be extremely slippery on the Nyx. There's probably not that much that I can do. But then afterwards, I've got those two maps that I love, champions that I'm amazing at. So I think he just played the long game and reset his mental state perfectly.
Yeah, I think that's the bigger picture. Is it looked like he took it more as a best of one after that initial loss. He didn't overthink it too much and just went straight back into it fresh, because you're absolutely right. Base, as soon as you give him one frag, you've essentially lost. That's all he needs to lock down the game, and that's what he did on Blood Run. However, Awoken, completely different storyline. We got into a more comfortable position. We gave Tox heroes that he likes playing, and we saw that start to translate in his gameplay.
Yeah, and obviously this time around he did not allow the speed to take control of him. Something we've seen several times in the past, something the both of us were worried about at the start as well. But he played it perfectly, and he used that slash speed even with the plasma trail when it was necessary. And I feel like almost every single time he used it, it had some effect, right? He would be able to jump up on base, put down some area denial, get out of a bad situation. So Tox played that to perfection. Props to him.
He has been one of the slower burners of the players in the Pro League, where he's kind of brick by brick starting to reach that potential that everyone's familiar with, and the inconsistency that used to exist as you just go later and later onto the stages, because it was the same in stage one. The longer the stage went on, Tox just started to look a little bit stronger. He just fell short at the stage one finals, where it didn't even really look like it was Tox playing. It almost looked like his heart just wasn't in it. But history repeats in stage two. He just gradually does just fine as we start to progress. He's had that progress already happen today, where it's just adaptation like that extremely, that immediately is something you don't see every day. And it's like you said, normally it's the fast champions can just cause him to just go all over the place, and then you can just walk into bad situations. He's sometimes been a bit too aggressive. We just didn't see anywhere near that today. There was, I don't even think, a single moment on any of the maps where you think, oh man, why would he push like that? I just don't even think it happened once.
No.
Tox can go far if he can maintain control over his own playstyle.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think he just proved that to us.
He did. He reeled it in. He realized he could adapt a little bit and didn't need to be absolutely aggressive at any given moment. He can switch it up on the fly. That's just how he did, walking away as the victor here over Base and a 2-1 feat. There is still one more best of 3 to go tonight, where we'll see the reigning champion, the holder of the belt in Cooler, coming out to play. So stay tuned for that after the break.